This is Focus on Africa from the BBC World Service. I'm Richard Kagoy. Let's go to a final story today. We're talking about how youth on the continent understand modern financial systems like cryptocurrency, for example. Did you know over $100 billion is held in various cryptocurrencies in Africa? That may give you a clue as to where we're heading with our next interview. With the growth of the internet and digital gadgets, young people are looking at how they grow their wealth differently in comparison to how previous generations looked at it in the past. Traditionally, communities measured wealth by the amount of land one owned, for example, or the number of cattle they might have had. These days, it's the digital space that's influencing the thought of what has value. It's where the youth are learning about wealth, unlike charts around a fire passed down by previous generations, which is a reflection of what we are placing value in. So, to understand the dynamics of wealth today, my colleague Audrey Brown spoke with Dolly Sagwe, a personal finance expert with an organization called ProsperPath in Nairobi.
Let's talk about wealth, because we're talking about the ways in which people perceive wealth or store wealth. Which is it? Tell me, perceiving or storing?
There's both. The way you perceive wealth is one thing, the way you store it is another. It's different conversations.
So tell us what you're finding in your organization.
What ProsperPath is coming to do is to say we have a need for education. And the reason why we're saying we have the need for education to understand how people perceive it, how people grow it, how people transfer it, and what people do with wealth once they have it. That whole cycle of what to do with wealth is what we want to address. And we're saying it can only be addressed through education first. And it needs to be done very fast because the rollout of technology is getting to young people in their 18, 19, 20 early years of adulting, where they have access to, say, credit, access to even wealth, even if they have received an inheritance, for example, but without knowledge of what to do with this wealth.
But there's also a changing perception of wealth, I believe. Tell us, what was the perception before? In other words, what did people think were things that created wealth or made them wealthy before, and what they think of as wealth now?
If I talk about my grandparents and their parents going back, the wealth was equal to land and animals, the stock you had. Wealth was also equated to the kind of positioning you had in the community, the honor, the reputation. So it was tangible and intangible. It was tangible with regards to physical assets, and those physical assets would be used to extract value. So from land, you grow your crop, you do your harvest, you barter trade, or you sell for money, depending on which season they lived in. The animals would multiply as well, but their name, their honor, their social placement in community, that was all signals of wealth. If we come to our time, land is finite. There's only so much land we can have. We have more younger people than the older people. So the wealth is knowledge. Actually, even then, they had the knowledge as wealth. Like, how much do you know and what do you know? What do you do with what you know? But the kind of knowledge we have now is different, but it's still knowledge. So knowledge is the tool I see that is common, one of the tools that is common in how wealth was gained those days in the past and still is today, but just different kind of knowledge.
So what's perceived as wealth, or what's the changing perception on what is wealth now and how you can store wealth or how you can parlay something into wealth?
So with that knowledge and the access through the internet and what we can access online, people are curious enough to figure out, how do I acquire wealth? And what is wealth? So we are seeing cryptocurrency coming in. And even before crypto, you would have stocks that were available. So in Kenya, for example, I would buy stocks from the Nairobi Securities Exchange for Kenyan companies. But because of the internet, I can access stocks from Hong Kong, from Australia, from the US, international stocks. So there's that part first and foremost. Then there's cryptocurrency that came in as a store of value, but also as an investment tool or an asset. So we went in and, figured it out, just getting to learn what is crypto, what does it do, how do I trade it, how do I get it back. So once that understanding came through, I guess in Kenya, maybe in the last 7-10 years, we are seeing very, very many young people now going into the crypto and trading crypto. They're also trading a lot of stock.
How well are they doing?
So it depends on how much they have invested in it. If you take a 15-year-old, and I do have 15-year-old nephews and nieces, they tell me I'm trading this crypto with fictional currency. It's not real currency, but they're trading it online on a platform. Much of what they are doing at the age of 15, 16, 17, without the money coming in, is monitoring what goes up, what goes down, what's gaining, what's losing. And at the end of the day or the transaction, what's my net position? Did I gain? Did I lose?
So they're learning.
So they're learning how to trade.
Without the risk of it.
Without the risk of it at that young age in their teens. The older ones, university level, beyond university, what I hear is they're talking about this crypto is backed by X. This crypto has been adopted by this economy. And because of that, it is strong and safe. So the older they get, the more I see them understanding what's behind this currency beyond the trading.
So tell me this. Are there people actually that have been making money out of cryptocurrency? And are there people who are actually successfully able to find information that they actually need and accurate information? Because a lot of the information comes from, for instance, TikTok or Instagram, or seems like a spam email or a spam response in somebody's feed somewhere on social media.
I think it comes down to what is it you're purchasing and how much do you know about it? So I don't look at crypto any differently than I do stocks or Forex. So if you're going in to purchase an asset and you expect that asset to grow, then you need to do your research. For example, I have more understanding, and they would have more understanding and more information on Bitcoin, for example. But they would have less understanding and there may be less information on XYZ that was released maybe 2 months ago. So that approach you go into, which one do I buy and why, is the same as even when our grandmothers and grandfathers were buying land. You need to understand, do I buy land, the one that's to the east and why, and the land that's to the west and why? Is it more fertile this side or that side? And what are the reasons behind it? The onus is on the investor to understand the fundamentals of making an investment decision. And that investment decision needs to be made based on research and enough knowledge. And of course, to understand there is a risk, and then you make an assessment of what kind of risk am I willing to carry.
So I'm wondering whether young people who are using these new ways of storing money and wealth and value know that, for instance, terms like stock comes from livestock, which is about cows and camels and goats and so on, that there's a straight line between these things. And is there any way where they can learn reliably about this?
There are programs online that are now taking people as young as 13, 14. I have seen them affiliated to universities, affiliated to organizations that do investments and trade. There are programs for that. And there's a lot of information online. Unfortunately, what we find happening is that what we are searching for online is responding to a question that goes like, in your mind, a question that goes like, how do I make this work?
How do I make money, in other words?
Exactly. And make money, more money yesterday. How do I do that? When you come with that approach, that's what you're going to be searching for online.
Do you have cryptocurrency?
Yes, I do.
Okay. You do. And all right, then. We've got to go. Thank you so much for your time and for your expertise.
Thanks. Bye.
Audrey Brown talking to Dolly Sagwe. Thanks for listening. This episode of Focus on Africa was produced by Charles Kitonga here in Nairobi and Victor Silva in London.